Dolphins fans, what is going on? Today we've got our final offseason preview video. We're covering the safeties. So, like I said, this is the last position, the one we haven't covered yet. If you missed any of them, we did every single position heading into this offseason. Go back, check those out, get subscribed if you're not already. Turn on those notifications. That way, they'll just be right there waiting for you. So, go back and check them out if you haven't missed any. But before we get started today, I want to say a huge thank you to those who have checked all these videos out. I know they're not the most timely things, they're not the most breaking news kind of things. It's more so for the diehards, the year-round fans that just can't get enough of Miami Dolphins football. A lot of time, a lot of prep, a lot of work goes into these. I know they don't have the biggest results from fans and people that watch Dolphins videos on YouTube, but that's okay. As long as people are getting stuff out of them, I'm glad I was able to help out, kill some time for you guys this offseason and give you some Dolphins content here for the start of the offseason. But like I said, this is the final one. Before we dive into my offseason preview, got to hear from you. Keep the tradition alive. You got a free agent safety you got your eyes on. You got an NFL draft prospect at safety you got your eyes on. Drop them in the comments. Curious to see who you have your eye on this offseason. But let's dive into this last one here. We're talking safeties. Let's go to the guys that we had in 2022. So you'll see right there that the free agents that we've got from last year, Eric Rowe, Clayton Fedulum. Not 100% sure that I really expect either of them to be back. Fedulum, obviously, his biggest contributions come in form of special teams. You really don't want him to see the field on an actual defensive snap. It happens time and time again over the last couple of seasons. We'll have to see if they find value in him in special teams. Eric Rowe, maybe if you get him on a 1 or a 2-year cheaper deal, he could come back. But let's pay attention to the remaining 3 guys on there, because obviously Jevon Holland, stud. Us as Dolphin fans know that. I think it's only a matter of time before the rest of the league is put on notice, kind of like what Christian Wilkins did this last year, where we all loved him, and then the rest of the NFL got introduced to him in a big way. I think Jevon Holland is one of those next players for us to end up doing that. He does it all. The coverage is there. The blitz ability is there. He's a pretty sure tackler. The instincts that he has shown through his first 2 years. And keep in mind, he didn't even play that final year at Oregon. That was the year that he ended up sitting out because of COVID, I believe it was. So for him to jump into the NFL the way he has, to show as much success as he has already, that dude is a star in the making. And guess what? Now we're going to give him Vic Fangio, who, look what he did to a guy like Justin Simmons. Like I said, the sky is the limit for this guy. He is going to be a superstar in this league. Just give it maybe another year or two. And then I want to look at Verone McKinley before I jump into Brandon Jones. McKinley, as you know, he was a UDFA out of Oregon as well, with promise. I would say that he actually showed some promise. He played some meaningful snaps in 2022, some snaps we likely didn't see him getting, with Rowe being a little bit dinged up, with Brandon Jones missing more time than not because of his injury. That's definitely a player that I would continue to invest in. Whether or not he's potentially ready for a starter's role, that's a question for another day, but definitely a player to continue to monitor here. Before I jump into Brandon Jones, I gotta refresh this page real quick here for you so you can keep having those numbers on the screen for you. But let's talk a little bit about Brandon Jones, because he's the hot topic right now at safety, because most people say, you know what, he's an in-box safety. That's what he does. Pass coverage would kind of be considered to be one of his weaknesses if you're grading him. But man, he was a perfect fit when it was like Josh Boyer and Brian Flores. Well, now you're bringing in Vic Fangio, and people are going to question that scheme because of Vic Fangio's too high safety scheme, where the safety's got to play more in coverage, more of that zone coverage. But quite often, the safeties will start in that too high look, just as a way to make it look like, hey, offense, go ahead and run here. We got 2 high safeties. And as soon as the snap happens, one of those safeties is darting into the box, essentially becoming another in-box defender. And that's what Brandon Jones could do. So I don't necessarily think that he's a bad fit into this defense. But yeah, looking at his strength, he is an in-box player. He's an in-box tackler. He times blitzes perfectly. He gets home so well. We've got plenty of tape over that the first couple of years that he's been in the league. So it kind of stinks that he probably wouldn't be utilized in that specific role. And I think that's where a lot of people are saying, you know what, that's the issue. We can't play him to his fullest strength because of they need to play more coverage. They need to play more zone coverage. And that's not exactly what Brandon Jones does to his best ability. So there indeed may be a little bit of an issue with his fit, but I don't think it's to the point where he's not just outright playable in this defense. So we'll have to see how the team wants to move forward when it's time to make a call with him when it comes to re-signing and whatnot. But I don't think he's unplayable in this defense. I think we're just going to have to find maybe another guy, which we'll talk about here in a second, or ways to kind of like schematically let him play to his strengths at least every once in a while. Let's flip over to the free agent safeties because so far this offseason, you've probably seen two names that stand out at safety more so than other names, and a couple of ties to the Dolphins here. The two names being Jordan Poyer and CJ Gardner-Johnson. Now, honestly, both players would come at a cost. Jordan Poyer's cost won't be quite as drastic, just because he is going to be 31. He is getting a little bit older, but his play really hasn't diminished. He's a great tackler. He's pretty damn good in coverage. He'd be the cheaper of the two options, with CJ Gardner-Johnson being the expensive option. If you look at these free agent safeties, he's going to be the one that commands the top dollar. He is going to get handsomely paid with how good he is at 25 years old, with how good he is when he's playing in the box, when he's playing in coverage. Every single thing he does, he is a stud. He's kind of like what Philly has right now, like their version of Jevon Holland. The dude is do it all. He gets the job done. And I tell you what, like I said, it would come at a premium. It would come at a cost if the Dolphins wanted to sign either of these guys. But let's hypothetically say the Dolphins do sign Jordan Poyer, or they sign Gardner Johnson this offseason. If you paired one of those players with Jevon Holland, you're looking at the Miami Dolphins as having the best safety duo in the NFL. And we already thought that Brandon Jones and Jevon Holland going into 2022 was pretty damn good. But they were pretty damn good in that zero blitz scheme where they could be used as blitzers and they could be used in the box more. If we're looking at two high safety looks now, Brandon Jones and Jevon Holland don't fall into that criteria now. But if you add Poyer or Gardner Johnson with Jevon Holland, well, now you're talking. So you've got a couple of people to keep an eye on there in free agents. Obviously, there's more than just those two, but those are the two that stand out the most so far, from what we've heard so far this offseason. But if we're looking at the draft, I'm going to be completely honest with you here. I give my draft analysis the best that I can with the positions I have. I have no specific insight as to any ties to any of these safeties with the Miami Dolphins. I'm not even going to pretend that they have interest in one of these guys or that I know more about one of these guys midway through February than I'm going to know later in this. My best guess is that the Dolphins likely don't draft a safety this offseason. If they're going to add to the position, I truly think that they're going to want a guy that's impact now, a proven safety, and that's where they come in with free agencies. So whether that's, like I said, whether that's Gardner Johnson and you're paying top dollar, or whether that's you're maybe getting a little bit of a later part of the career discount with a guy like Jordan Poyer, I think free agency is so much more likely than the NFL draft. So obviously you can't rule it out. And obviously, if I get any insight as to the Dolphins being tied or linked to one of these players, I'll likely do a draft player profile on them later throughout this offseason leading up to the draft. But as of right now, I don't have any insight as to the Dolphins being tied to any of these NFL draft safeties. So wrapping this one up, like I said, the biggest thing that we're going to have to find out this offseason, it's that fit. It's, does Brandon Jones fit? Does he belong in a Vic Fangio-led defense? And quite honestly, we just talked about the draft there, but free agency is going to tell us. That's going to give us our answer. Free agency will give us our answer as to whether or not Vic Fangio thinks, yep, Brandon Jones is a fit in this defense, or nope, he could be a piece of this defense, but he's not a long-term solution. He's not my ideal fit. I'm going to go get my guy in free agency. So free agency in regards to the safety position, in my opinion, is the biggest part of this offseason when it comes to safety. But like I said, that's what I've got, but I'm curious to hear your take as well. You got a free agent safety. Is it Poyer? Is it Gardner Johnson? Is it one of those other guys? Do you have your eyes on one of those draft prospects? Like I said, I don't have my eyes on any of them at this point in time. But if there's a guy you think I should be taking a look at, drop them in the comments. I'm all ears when it comes to draft prospects. Love to get my hands dirty and dive into those prospects as much as I can leading up to the draft. So if you've got someone I should check out, by all means, drop them in the comments. Once again, thanks to everyone who checked out these positional previews is what I should be saying throughout the offseason so far. Go back and check out the ones you haven't seen yet. Let me know your comments on all those guys. I asked the same question in each one of the videos. Go ahead, drop the player you've got your eye on. Go back and check those out. But that's what I've got. Combine is next, Dolphins fans. So we'll be back with some content leading up to the NFL scouting combine as well. But that is my time for today. And until next time, fins up.